I do not fear AI taking my job as an artist. Hey, my name's Chantal. I am a watercolour artist and illustrator. You may know me from the journey I'm currently taking you on at the moment, which is writing and illustrating my children's book, Adina and Her Star. But today I wanted to talk about another passion of mine, which is storytelling, and also why I don't fear AI taking my job as an artist, which I feel is a pretty bold statement to say. I want to share my perspective with you today because I don't want you to ever stop creating art out of fear. I want to share my knowledge on how you can stand apart from AI and not let it steal your job. So let's dive straight in. And when I say artists, I do really want to generalize and broaden my scope to not just visual artists, but to animators, to photographers, to writers, to small business owners. I really think the knowledge that I'm sharing today on how you can stand apart from AI art can apply to so many different art factors. But of course, I will be viewing it through the lens of visual art, but I do think that you can extend it and you can really customize it to whatever art sector you work in. Now, just because I don't fear AI art doesn't mean that I like it. And I do not like it. And if you don't know how AI art operates or how it is created, I'm going to sum it up really quickly in about one sentence. Basically, AI art is created using algorithms and inputs that analyze most likely copyright artwork that is created by people that did not give their permission for its use, and AI studies that art, analyzes it, and with a few prompts that you put in, it can create AI art, an amalgamation of all the art that we have created as humans. So it is not ever creating something new. I think a lot of people ask themselves, how can I incorporate AI art? How can I use AI art in my own art journey to get better, to climb the ladder, to be better, to, if we don't use AI art, we're going to be lost, we're going to be left behind. But I think that is the wrong question we're asking. I think we need to ask ourselves, what do I have as a human that is creating art that AI doesn't have and will never have? So the first step is answering that question. What do I have as an artist that AI art will never have? And I'm going to be using myself as an artist as an example throughout this video because it's easy. And initially you may think that what sets me apart from AI art is my exceptional skill. AI art will never be able to paint like me. I paint realistically in traditional watercolor, and you can always, I can as an artist, always tell if something is done by AI art. As we have seen over the years, and I'm going to put a video here, the progression of AI art is getting better and better and better as it is fed more of our art. It is analyzing more of our art, it is analyzing more of our data, and as it is doing that, as the algorithms get quicker and more efficient, it is able to produce more human-like art. So I don't think that our skills as an artist will set us apart from AI art. I do think that there will be, and today I think there is, indistinguishable from our art and AI art. It's indistinguishable sometimes, which is honestly quite sad. So that is not the answer to our question of what sets our human art apart from AI art. So what do we have as an artist that AI art will never have? And that is the journey of creation. AI art is able to spit out an image in seconds, and that is what people praise it for. We don't have to learn hours and hours and years to develop this skill to be able to paint, to be able to create art. It makes it more accessible, but although that may be its biggest success or what people look for in it, it's also its biggest flaw. It will never go through and understand the process of creating that art piece. It will never have failures, it will never have successes, it will never have rejection, or it will never have triumphs. And so that documentation and that creation of the art piece itself through the human journey of creating that art piece is something that AI art will never have. And it is this emotion behind every single painting that allows us as humans to connect our art to people all across the world, across language barriers and across time and space, and is what makes our art as a human stand apart from AI art. I believe with the rise of AI art, the creation of the art will become more valuable than the art itself. And that is something that I think we need to understand, come to terms with, and utilize in being able to grow our art career in the future. And I don't mean that the documentation of the creative process in a performative way. I mean it in a storytelling way. So let me explain with an example, but I think that's the easiest way to do it. For every single page of my children's book that I illustrate, I come out with a new episode, and every page has a story. It could be a story of rejection, or it could be a learning experience. It could be learning a new skill. It could be my failures. It could be my successes. But it is a story that happened while I was creating this piece. And that is what connects me to my audience, to my viewers, and to people that like what I paint and what I illustrate. And I remember page 3 of my picture book, Adina and Her Star. The story was about me hating the color blue, and that's how I started the reel and the story. I said, I hate the color blue, and then I went on and said how I overcome my fear of painting with blue to create honestly one of my most favorite pages in my book yet. And that video went viral on every platform because so many other creators, so many other artists could resonate with what I was saying. They were like, oh my god, I hate purple, and we were all in the comments discussing why we hate certain colors when we paint. And I think that was such a beautiful experience, and to be able to create that community in my comment section of all the artists resonating with their hate for particular colors. And AI could never hate a color, and I think utilizing on that human aspect of emotion and our fears and our failures and our successes, and not just within our community of artists but our broader reach to community of people out there in the world that don't create art, is what connects us all together, and is something that AI could never have and AI could never share with the art it creates. There is so many people out there in the world. Don't ever feel like there isn't an audience for you, and that people are going to end up using AI over your art, because there is so many people out there in the world that also hate AI art. Those are your people, and find those people and don't go seeking big companies or big opportunities that are now utilizing AI into their workplace, because frankly, they weren't going to hire you in the first place. So I don't think you should be chasing after something that doesn't want you. You should be creating your own opportunities and your own pathways. Now we get to the juicy bit, and you're like, Chantal, that's great, but how on earth do I create storytelling content? How on earth do I create videos or footage or even experiences out in the real world, doesn't have to be social media, to share my art and to stand apart from AI? How do I even cultivate this community and share my art in this way? Well, that's why I'm here. I love storytelling. I use storytelling throughout all aspects of my career, whether that is in my illustrations, whether that is in my writing, or whether that is in my film and my videography, my long and short form content. I will choose storytelling over anything else. And I think it is such a powerful medium, and is such a powerful way to share your art, not only to stand apart from AI art, which is the objective of this video, but to grow as an artist, to generate a community, to have more sales. Today, I'm going to share specifically how you as an artist, and that could be any artist ever, or maybe a small business owner, how you specifically can create storytelling content to share your art, and also why it is so important, the framework, the guidelines. Let's get into all the juicy facts. I'm specifically in this video going to be talking about storytelling content in the digital space and online on social media, whether that is Instagram, TikTok or YouTube, but I definitely think that there is so much to be had in the real world as well, and creating stories through exhibitions or movements or pop-up shops. I think there is so much creativity that can be explored in that sphere as well. But I do think that the easiest way to get your work out in the world to clients, to your audience, is through the sphere of social media, because frankly it is free, and the only thing it requires is knowledge and your time to put that knowledge to use. And right now, I'm about to give you all the knowledge that you ever need to create storytelling content, to share your art and stand apart from AI art. Before we dive into this video, and if you are interested, I have spent months creating a storytelling workbook which goes into all the chapters in depth with more information and more examples. And I also have 7 storytelling templates that you can customize and insert your own story in whatever niche you are, and be able to share your own art to more people and stand apart from AI and your competitors. And if you're interested in seeing my workbook, it is linked down in my description. Now, we're all probably very familiar with basic storytelling structure. I'm going to journey back to grade 10 English, and I'm going to talk you through how we can use the basic storytelling structure in our videos and our content. So everything starts with an introduction, and for us, when we're in social media world, when we're creating content, we usually call this the hook, and you may be already familiar with this. And the hook is instantly grabbing your viewer's attention. Honestly, if you don't have a great visual, written or verbal hook in the first 3 to 5 seconds, you're gone. Your viewers already scrolled away, they're not interested. And a hook sometimes actually can be the inciting incident. It could be a bold statement, an absurd fact, an interesting question, and the the more high stakes it is with this statement, the more likely that your viewer is going to stay along. But honestly, it can be something that is very just unique to you on your journey, and it can be something that is really relatable. And I often find that statements that have a lot of relatability, or things that people look for or want to know, do really well. That is the first step of your story, is getting people wanting to watch it with a hook. And then we go on to something called the inciting incident. If your inciting incident wasn't the hook, which will have a little bit more of a intrigue with the viewer. This could be your hook, right? People tell me I should fear AI art as an artist. That is your hook. And then we go to the inciting incident, and we follow it with a but. And that but creates intrigue. You're like, hang on, what? She disagrees with that statement? Your audience is instantly wanting to know why. But. And that but is the inciting incident. But I disagree. That but, or that however, is so important to create intrigue. And a lot of great stories will then follow on in number 3, which is usually like this dance of information. And this is where the bulk of your story follows through, whether you want to tell how you're feeling when you're creating the artwork, or the piece, or the journey that you're on. This is where the entertainment or the information and the knowledge will come through, the experience of creating the art per se. And it is like this dance. You don't want to go, and then I washed the dishes, and then I painted blue on the page, and then I did this. It becomes, when you say and then, or you just follow each sentence one after the other with information, see how it's getting really boring, and I'm probably losing your interest. People are also going to lose interest in a very short form content if you're not providing intrigue with words like but or however. So if you've ever written a script for your storytelling content, I advise you to go through them now and see where you could have replaced and then with a but, so, or however. Because rereading it again, you'll be like, wow, that creates so much intrigue, that creates so much interest. Step 4, we'll usually get to the climax, and this is the answer. It can be sometimes the climax and the resolution can be sometimes interwoven and the same, depending on what niche you're in and what story you're telling. But the climax is when everything is at the high stakes. Does she achieve the goal or not? Kind of find out the answer to whatever question or whatever quest or whatever story we are on. At the very end, usually in social media as well, we'll have a call of action. Follow me if you want to see the next page. I think I put it more eloquently in my own words, but basically that is the call of action. Reminding our viewer that we want them to follow along in our journey further on, or to buy our book, or to XYZ. So yeah, that is the basic structure of storytelling content in its rare bones. That is the basic structure. We can get really complicated, and I'll share one or two of my templates in chapter 4. There are so many different templates and ways that you can tell storytelling content. And I think that's one of my biggest passions, is also figuring out how you can tell storytelling content for your own niche will be different from your next door neighbor. And so that's why I created 10 different templates for you guys to follow along and try out, and also to have it to your niche. Great, we've got a great script following the basic structure of storytelling, but how on earth do I film and edit this video? Girl, I wonder that too sometimes, and honestly, I'm still learning, I am still practicing, but I think the number one priority is having a great story. And then comes filming and editing and audio quality and all that thing, that production behind the story. It honestly can, though, make or break your story. Basically, our storytelling tools are there to encapsulate and highlight our story in the best possible way, to share my art in the way that I see it in real life, to share my story in the way that it happened to me. I want you to come along with me in real time of how I felt when it happened. And that is where these tools come into play. So let's start with number 1, which is film. And film actually isn't as great as people think it is. The quality of what your story is and the quality of the audio actually takes preference over film. For example, I'm filming this on my iPhone 11 Pro with a smashed screen, and it's about to shit itself because it's on 20%. You probably had no idea that I was doing that. Also, my audio on my freaking wireless headphones because my 3 mics broke. But you're still here because you love the story I'm telling you and all the content I'm giving you and the knowledge that I'm telling you for free, right? That matters more than the quality of the appliances that I'm using. And however, what I do to optimize my space is that I love to film in direct light. I like to film in 4K to be as clear as possible, and I like my audio to be as clear, as sharp as possible. And this really comes into the way that I'm speaking to the camera, and that with the way that I'm articulating my sentences and the way I am portraying my story. So really, film is about capturing what is happening whilst you're saying your story. A second tool, of course, which I touched on just then, is audio. Really important to have a clear, crisp, loud audio. And also, people often forget is the importance of pronunciation. If you are telling something interesting in your story that has a lot of tension, a lot of high stakes, pronunciation is so important. And I was really bad at it when I started creating content, and I just read my scripts over and over again and added flavors of my personality into reading them out loud. And sometimes all it takes is practice, practice, practice. And you like to tell, I hate doing voiceovers, I hate talking to the camera. Girl, I feel you. I feel you. I did not talk to the camera or behind it for a year of creating content. But the sooner you can teach yourself that skill, the better, because you can say so much more when you're speaking about your experience. You can add so much more personality to your story when you're sharing your art with a voiceover and with audio and with yourself speaking than you can with just visual shots. And I really encourage you to learn that skill as quickly as possible. I do think there are great artists out there that do not talk to their camera at all, and they tell great stories with just the visuals of their work. But in saying that, you do really need great, interesting, intriguing visuals while you are creating your art to tell a great story without audio. Number 3 is text, and having text on screen can really highlight important information or exaggerate important information that you don't want your audience to miss. This could be dates or location or numbers, and it also can be really good in, conveying that important information, attracting your viewers' attention, keeping them intrigued with your story, and highlighting the importance of what you're saying. I think that it is to be used with caution. Sometimes I see a lot of videos where I'm like, whoa, I'm overstimulated, that's way too much text popping up and around. I'm like, oh, my brain hurts. So it is, use it with caution. Our 4th point is music and sound effects. And this is a really big important that could elevate what your story is about and how your audience should feel at certain points in your story. If I'm telling a story that has high stakes, the world's biggest watercolor paper, I usually choose songs that have, a very high BPM, something that is, a very fast pace, something that creates a lot of intrigue. Whilst if I'm telling a story that's a lot more emotional or a lot more personal, perhaps a little bit laid back, then I choose, a quieter, kind of softer music to play in the background. Music is an excellent way to create common mood in your story. And in long form content, you'll use lots of different music for lots of different aspects of your story and where you are and what type of emotions you want your audience to feel. But usually in short form content, you'll usually have one short story and you'll pick one song that has a common mood. Your audience is more likely to watch the entire video. Sound effects are similar to text, and they can be used in moderation to really heighten tension or heighten the effects or heighten what you want the viewer to feel. We're now going to go into chapter 3, which is storytelling basics. Yes, I did call them basics, but they are not necessary for every single storytelling content. They are used in a way to take your story from good to great. But depending on what story you're telling, sometimes they may be necessary or sometimes they may be not. So you kind of have to pick and choose, and you're like, oh, should I utilize this basic or should I leave it out? I would definitely prioritize the authenticity of your story and the way it happened in real life than having every single basic storytelling tool in your story. I'm going to go over these quite quickly because there are a lot of them, but if you want in-depth explanations of every single one and examples of how you can use them in your storytelling content, they are in my workbook. Nevertheless, let's dive into them in the video. The first one is transparency, and transparency is a great addition to your storytelling content. That transparency builds trust, and that trust can cultivate a long-term connection and relationship between you and your audience. They are more likely to have loyalty to you and your brand, to support your other projects, to follow along in every art piece that you make, and also trust what other words you're going to say in your expertise and in your niche. It also develops a sense of relatability. When you're transparent, you're like, oh, I also feel that way when I'm creating art, or I also understand whatever you are talking about. Because you've been that transparent, your audience sees you as more human, which is what we want if we want to stand apart from AI art. Point number 2 is having high stakes in your story. If you want your audience to watch through the entirety of your content, the higher your stakes are in your story, the more likely they are going to watch the entire video. For example, I want to sell 10,000 copies of my children's book in the first weeks of sales. That's very high stakes and is keeping my audience very intrigued in my story. Will I achieve that goal? Will I not? But don't sacrifice the authenticity of your story for high stakes. For example, every time I create a story, or a story happens to me in my episodes of each page of my book that I'm illustrating, not all of them have high stakes and not all of them are going to go viral, and not every single story has to have high stakes, because if you do that in every single one of your content, people are going to lose trust and they're going to see that the content you're creating is not authentic to who you are as an artist. The third point we have is show, don't tell. Don't tell me you're baking a cake, show me that you're baking a cake. And this is very important in the storytelling structure of your script and your video. So it's really important not to overlap the two. If you're showing me that you're baking a cake, for example, step 1, 2, 3, and you're also telling me what you're doing, it's two things. Like, I don't need to be shown and told at the same time. If you're already showing me something in your story, then add a layer of information or emotion or facts, or you have to bring something further into the story besides from step 1, put the ingredients in the bowl. Step 2, I put X, Y, Z. The last thing that I have is rhythm and tone, and this is basically the way you tell your story. It's about the pronunciation of certain words to create more intrigue or to explain your story better. A lot of people that I watch online, they're telling a story straight to the camera, so they're not having any B-roll in the background. It's just them. You and them on FaceTime. And when you see a lot of their audience or their viewers saying, "Oh, it's like we're on FaceTime, this is such a great story, you're such a great storyteller," the number one thing that they utilize is their pronunciation and their conversational tone. And that is so important into developing that relationship and that relatability between them as the storyteller and you as the audience. And being able to tell a great story without any B-roll or any background footage is all in the way you tell it. Your tone and your pronunciation. All right, guys, we are onto my favorite chapter, which is storytelling example, and walk them through with you guys and how you can adapt them to your content, because these are just templates. These are just basic structures. Every single template will follow the basic storytelling structure, which I walked you guys through in chapter 1, but they do add more elements that you can sometimes utilize in specific stories or specific niches. And perhaps you have a story and you have no idea how to tell it. Honestly, a few small changes and a few small words can take your story from being good or mediocre to being great and people watching the entire video. Okay, this storytelling structure is what I think every single artist, every single small business owner, every single person, whatever niche you're in, should have on their page at least once. It is so important to share this story and to utilize this structure to your advantage. If you're an artist, if you're a small business owner, it is so important, because you know what? AI could never have this story. And this story structure is called, I call it your why. So let's walk through the template. This story is all about the beginning of your business or your art career. It's why you began, and your why sets the foundation for your entire business, for your entire brand and your entire art piece. And people really do want to know why you're creating art. And if you don't have a storytelling video on why you're creating art, I suggest you go and make one. I suggest this is the first storytelling content that you create. And if you want me to review it, please send me a DM on Instagram, and I would love to see the video if you do end up creating one. And I can tell you what to change or add, or maybe you've nailed it. But anyway, let's walk through the structure. So the hook starts with a reflection on you back to your past. And this is a very popular hook, and you will see this in every single niche. With no doubt, I will be able to go and find a video or be able to create a script based on your niche with this storytelling structure, because it starts with a reflection back to the past. And it usually starts with 1 year ago, 3 years ago, 2 months ago, 1 month ago. You're kind of reflecting back. So whatever time frame you have on when you started your dream, maybe it's 1 day ago or 1 week ago. It can be as short as that. For me, I'm going to share one of mine, and that's 1 year ago, I bought the world's largest watercolor paper. So you're kind of inserting that time frame, whatever it is for you, insert your time frame, and then afterwards you insert your dream. I decided to buy the world's largest watercolor paper and then insert action. And for me, that was to write and illustrate my children's book after being rejected. And we're going to go into that rejection into our second. So our second point is providing that emotional background. Why did you buy the world's largest watercolor paper? Why did you start writing and illustrating your children's book? And for me, you really have to insert the incident that inspired you to take that course of action, and then you insert your goal or your dream. So for me, it all started when I sent my art portfolio out to over 100 different creative agencies and was rejected by every single one of them. So that is the inspiration of why. Then and there, I decided to write and illustrate my own children's book. So that's my dream, my goal, to obviously write and illustrate my own children's book and to have it finished in its bare essence. And the inspiration behind that was coming from a place of rejection. So what happens after that is we want to catch people up to date with our story. And so we usually summarize the progress that we have had thus far. And for me, I like to summarize that I've done the first or the second page wherever I am. And then I will summarize, the rest of my story. And over the next year or two, I have illustrated the first 12 pages, and today we are illustrating page 13 together. It kind of gives an update of the progress of how far we've come, and also reflects back on the inspiration. At the very end, we do have a call to action, which is usually telling people, follow along my journey, let's see if we can make it happen. And whatever your terminology is, whatever way you speak and the personality you have, you can customize this template to your own niche and to your own story of your why. We are the only species on this planet that tell stories to one another. It allows us to connect across time, across generations, across space, and with each other. It's something that no other species tells, and it's something that AI could never do. And I honestly think the future of art and the future of human connection and human creation relies in sharing the process of creating this art. I think that is what makes us human and is what is so special about the art that we do create. And I think whether you are sharing that online or in person, that is what gives power to our work and is something that can never be replicated. A great story will inspire the reader beyond the page. And I like to say great storytelling content will inspire the audience beyond the video. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really hope it was entertaining as possible, and I really hope that it was educational and really showed you another dimension into how you could share your art and how you could stand apart from AI art to keep your job and to create an audience that loves you for your work, and to find clients and to find jobs and to create your own opportunities, because honestly, my job is at risk of being taken by AI art. I have seen children's books made with AI art, and it is hard enough myself to even get into this industry of children's book illustrating. As you know, I have been rejected a lot, and so that was my primary reason for starting to write my own story and start to share my story and my book through storytelling content online. But I also, over time, have realized that this is also this is also the solution, I think, to stand apart from AI art and from other competitors that aren't human. I have found so many people that don't like AI art either, that just love my story and can see the human approach in what I'm creating. I don't think it's a be-all or end-all solution, and I do think that there is definitely difficulties in losing jobs and certain aspects to our career. To storytelling content is a way that we can share our art to attract like-minded people that also value human art and human connection and human emotion. And I have seen that in my work, and I have seen that in my audience, and I have seen that when I share storytelling content. So if I can do that, you can do that too. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And if you want more information, I love to discuss everything social media, storytelling. In the comments below, if you have any questions, let me know. I love to answer them. And if you want my workbook, which goes through so many different examples, it goes a lot into the psychology of storytelling, how to set it up and how to tell your stories. I have linked it in my description below if you're interested in that. And yeah, I love telling stories, and I hope one day that I can go and watch yours.